Hello, dear listeners. This is your host, Osheye. Thank you so much for all of your support thus far. This podcast has grown so much in just a few short months. We are absolutely awed and humbled at the response, and it is always a delight to read from you about the impact we are having. Please do keep them coming. And now, we are down to our final guests for this first season. As we prepare to wrap up the season, I have a favor to ask. Would like your feedback to help us in our plans for the second season. What did you like? What didn't you like? What would you like us to start doing, stop doing, or even continue doing? To get your responses, we've created a simple form. Please check the show notes of this episode for the link and our social media pages at OriginsAF on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can simply type bit.ly, B for banana, I for interview, T for tangerine, bit.ly/Origins Africa Podcast Feedback. Origins is with an S, so bit.ly/Origins Africa Podcast Feedback right now to access the form. We are also considering starting a newsletter, which would include the transcripts of each episode and perhaps also 3 things I learned from each guest interview. If it's something you'd like, please let us know on the same feedback form and also share your thoughts with us on some of the things you'd like us to consider for the newsletter or any other ideas generally. I look forward to receiving your responses. The link again is bit.ly/Origins Africa Podcast Feedback. Thank you once again for staying on this ride with us. Enjoy.
And at that time, he told me, he said, Debbie, you can sell these cookies. I looked at him with my engineering, with these sleepless nights, studying hard. And in fact, I must confess, I rejected it. And a lot of times they say that, then we had this, when angels pass, when you say a negative word, and angels will pass, they'll just stamp it, So I always say that I thank God that day,
did the angels
no angel passed because I rejected. In fact, I said, no.
My father told me life is not a bit.
This is Origins Africa Podcast, where we explore the origin stories of people who have made and are making their dreams come true, asking the what, the when, the how, and the why. I'm Osheye, and on the first episode of our chat with Gbola and Debby Lawson, co-directors of Fastizers Food Confectionery Limited, we explore the birth and growth of Fastizers, impact of COVID-19 on the business and how they've adapted, as well as how they've been able to build a successful company together as partners. This is our first partnership series on Origins Africa. I trust many of us are familiar with fun cookies, yeah? I mean the lovely heart-shaped cookies, well packaged in a yellow wrapper and with that distinct shortbread taste. Delicious cookies, I must say, and I actually restock every month. Anyways, so imagine my surprise when I found out that Fun Cookies is the flagship product of Fastizers Food Confectionery Limited, a rapidly emerging food manufacturing company co-directed by husband and wife, Gbola and Debby Lawson. Interestingly, Gbola and Debby weren't co-directors from inception. Gbola was actually a banker and on a fast rise to becoming a manager at the bank, whilst supporting Debby in the background as she built Fastizers. But come 2014, a need arose at Fastizers and Gbola decided to quit his job at the bank and join Debby. A tough decision, I must say. I mean, putting all your eggs in one basket. But then, the world's greatest investor and third richest man on the planet, Warren Buffett, once said, "Keep all your eggs in one basket. But watch that basket closely. I guess that's what Gbola and Debbie decided to do. Fastizers Food Confectionery Limited started from a kitchenette in 2010 with very basic equipment and with 960 naira only. Today, Fastizers runs a 2-acre automated production factory in Agbara, Ogun State, fitted with modern baking equipment. Their current distribution covers over 20 states with a production of over 600,000 Fastizers Fun cookies daily. But then, COVID-19 hit this year. How did the pandemic affect Fastizers and how did they adjust?
COVID had been a very interesting journey. We did planning 2020, we didn't see it coming. And yet it has exposed a lot of things, and affected various businesses in different ways. So for us, it had an impact on the behavior of the consumers. It had a serious impact on foreign exchange that now in turn had a very serious impact on cost of production. And the kind of business we are in, our products are 50 naira, 100 naira products. It is very, very difficult to transfer incremental cost of production to the consumers. This is coming in a year where, we just had to absorb another 2.5% increase in tax, from 5% to 7.5%. And then just as we were, preparing and absorbing that, then COVID hit, so that had a major impact. But we've been able to cope with it quite well, thankfully we're in the food space. So come what may, people still have to eat, so we've been able to manage that a bit from the demand perspective. From the cost perspective, we definitely had to be very, very efficient with our cost structure. We had to be efficient with, with our waste, our overhead, and all of that. So, but by and large, I once told someone that we are not hoping to survive COVID. We are hoping to succeed, COVID. And then I think things are getting better with time.
When you say you managed it from demand perspective, what did you do?
All right, so a number of things. Fortunately, so first things first, our products, right? We have a group or a portfolio of products, different target markets, different market segments. So we have some products that are more focused to bottom of pyramid, the 50 naira products and all of that. So, what we did, after the lockdown began to ease was to push a lot more marketing activities, both above the line and below the line activities on those seemingly cheaper product lines, to push it more to the face of the consumers, let them know that this is here. There are some campaigns we did to say, while at home, that was during the lockdown, while watching TV, you can have a snack and all of that. We believe that a combination of those marketing activities kind of, pushed attention to those product lines.
Another thing we did was we have a product that generates a lot of waste, and what we were doing before was we take the waste, we sell it to farmers. But during this period, we had an initiative to kind of make that product, recycle it into another product. So that kind of helped us in which, so we recycle that, waste and produce, a product which we sell it to the market. So that has kind of helped us to reduce our waste, because when we sell it to the farmers, we sell it as, scrap, which doesn't bring much income. But with this, we've been able to generate income from waste.
Okay, that's great. That's great. You mentioned this change happened as the lockdown was easing off. So during the lockdown, how you guys stored activities, I would assume?
Pretty much. So number one, there was issue moving around. We had issues getting the employees to the office. That was there. You had issues moving your products, across the country for numerous reasons, So it was more or less a total lockdown. So that period, we more or less for 2 weeks kind of completely stopped, production activities, for some that could move, we were able to move to some customers, but probably 10% of the total customer base. For 2 weeks, we had to stop, operations, and after that, we then started again. Again, like as you mentioned, one of the things we also did, we had to be a bit more e-commerce focused. So we weren't big on e-commerce before. We started looking at our e-commerce options. How do we get our products into the e-commerce space, and people knowing that, okay, while you buy other things online, you could add these products to those bundles. It's still coming up. It's definitely not there yet as much as we would like, but we feel it's a step in the right direction as things unfold.
So would you say the pandemic, so to say, pushed you guys to maybe explore alternatives that you wouldn't readily have explored, and then it helped maybe push sales or maybe reach a new target audience and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so in entrepreneurship, it's either you innovate or you die. That's the honest truth. You have to consistently innovate, and there's this popular saying that necessity is the mother of invention. So definitely, when the pandemic started, we have to start asking ourselves, what do we do? What changes do we need to make? How do we change our business model? What new channels do we need to consider? Remember, we're into this, packaged snack food business. So a major consumer for us are kids, and then kids are home, Yes, kids are home, and that will have an impact on snacking. So normally the way kids behave, when they go to school, they get a snack. And then when they come back home, they probably get another snack. So an average kid will probably snack maybe twice a day. Now, they probably snack once a day. So there might be an impact, in that regard. We identified that possibility, and then we then said, okay, right, let's try other channels that we had not focused on before to see if we can reach a higher end, customer base and all of that. And then
This year, 2020, is also Fastizers' 10-year anniversary. It has been a long 10-year journey for Debbie and Gbola, with its ups and downs.
First and foremost, I want to thank God that at least we were able to start, because I hear that they say any company that exceeds, most companies don't exceed, 5 years.
Yes, I heard that.
So for us to have exceeded that, I think it's a great plus, but it's kind of, as an entrepreneur, you always try to adapt. That's one thing I've learned, over the course of, our business, is you always try to adapt, to changes. So during this pandemic period, we were very open, because we had an, experience in 2016 when there was a recession, and we were kind of slow, in moving fast, and that kind of affected us. But in this period, because we had learned from that experience, we were kind of okay. We came up to the round table to say, what are we going to do? What changes are we going to make? So that kind of, we want to say we were prepared, because nobody expected it, but we had had an experience, and we didn't want that to be a core. So it was, we learned, what we learned over that time, we brought it into this year. So I would say that it's in the course of business, you grow, you learn. So it has been a journey of learning, and we are not there yet. Even if we are 10 years, we're still hoping to get to 20 years, to get to 30. So we will keep, things will come to disrupt, operations, but for the fact that we are not going back, so we'll keep adapting, changing. I think it's interesting.
And looking back through the years, it's 10 years. What word comes to mind? I mean, from when it was just an idea, and now you have a factory at Gbola, you have this office here. What feeling comes to mind?
Wow! Every time I think of this, it's you're just seeing a dream, a seed, turning into a big tree with fruits. Now you have a lot of staff, that are benefiting from it. So not just the staff, even the, vendors, the customers, that are benefiting from it's like you're a mother. It's like an hen and a chick, So I believe it's there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity we have brought into the economy. So we are contributing, to our economy, and that gives me so much joy, because I always love to see people smile I would love to see people happy for the fact that I'm doing this to enable many people, and we are not just going to stop here. We want many, many more people to benefit, from what we're doing. I think that's what, keeps us. We want to empower men and women for prosperity. That's our vision, and that's what drives us. And we see people coming, more and more people are coming in, to that chain. It gives me so much.
But what feeling?
Yeah, so let me add a bit to that. I would say gratitude. Thinking back 10 years, it's very easy to live 10 years and nothing much has changed. There are a lot of people that have lived the past 10 years of their lives and they've not changed significantly, they've not grown significantly. This has grown from 960 naira from the first day, and now you have, over 250 people directly, working with the organization right now, indirectly, probably 2,000 or thereabouts. So there's this sense of, gratitude to say, wow, we've come so far. One doesn't take that for granted because it's not a small journey. It's not a journey without its challenges. But as the challenges have come, we've been able to, overcome one challenge after the other to get to where we are today.
What do you think has been most helpful for you on the journey?
Most helpful. Debbie, what has been most helpful for you? A few things come to mind, but let me hear, Debbie.
Okay, so I think for me, it has kind of thought to me before. Now, I used to be very kind of fixed on something. So before I can change, it takes a lot of push, to push me to change, my position. But as I got into, this business, I see that, you can't be fixed. You have to deliberately open yourself for changes because things can happen if you're fixed. And anything happens, it's very difficult, but when you are open, even before things happen, you just begin to, okay, what are we going to do? Instead of being fixed. So along this, this journey, I've learned to be open-minded. So it has really, really taught me. I'm sure Gbola can testify to that. It has taught me to be open. I'm open to opportunities, so I don't block my mind. So that's one of the things I've learned, over the journey.
Yeah, so, to respond to that, the word that came to mind is adaptability.
Okay.
Adaptability is the word that came to mind that, we've always been able to adapt to whatever comes our way. Vision, because there are times when what you see does not reflect where you are, but we keep our eyes on the future and what can be, and we don't let where we are, distract us from going there, and we keep on pushing towards the vision that we see. Adaptability, vision, partnership and trust has helped. Now, because we are what they call co-preneurs, that is couples in business together. And we have divergent strengths. So Debbie is strong in where I'm weak, and then I am weak in where she's strong. And as a matter of fact, we say all the time that, or I say that, without Debbie, Fastizers, if I was the only one managing Fastizers probably would not be where it is today. And then without me, Fastizers also probably will not be where it is today. So that complementing partnership, has also helped us a lot in driving this. So when one person is discouraged, the other person is saying, let's go on, or just picks the ball and keeps things going. Then, when the other person is discouraged, one of the other person then picks the ball and keeps things going. So those three things, amongst other things, but majorly those three things are the first things that come to mind.
So adaptability, vision, and partnerships. Both of it together.
So, riding on Gbola's comment on complementing partnership, what are Gbola and Debbie's strengths and weaknesses, and how do they complement each other?
Okay, so I'm very good, in operations. So I try to handle the day-to-day operations of the organization. So That's why I oversee the supply chain of the organization. So Gbola is very good in strategy. So he's a futuristic human being. He sees the future. Even though right now, over the years, of course, I've come to learn, I can't just be doing operation. I have to learn to, strategize. I have to join in. So that's one of the just strengths.
So, let me give you a story of something that happened, when she went to give birth in the US. And, I had to do a bit more operations. So, doing transfers and doing all of that. That was when I really appreciated what she does, because whenever I want to, it's either I want to transfer 100,000 to someone and I mistakenly transfer 1 million, or I want to transfer, I want to transfer 1 million to Mr. A, I mistakenly transfer the 1 million to Mr. B. In the space of 1 week of her traveling, I probably had made mistakes like 5 times. At that point, I have to call and say, I can't deceive you. I can't do this thing. Take the token. Don't do everything from wherever. Thank God it was online, So in terms of operations, she's strong in keeping things going. I like new challenges. I don't like routine stuff, So that is where the balance is. And then that in business, without managing what is on ground, you cannot achieve what is ahead. And if you stick only with what is on ground, you will never grow beyond. And if you are not growing, you are dying. So that is where the perfect synergy comes into place, of balance and all of that.
Interesting to see. Now I know that also there could also be a clash between someone who's operations focused and there's someone who's strategy focused and future minded. Operations would maybe think, focus on the now, we need to get this done, and they won't maybe fully grasp. Maybe as they're talking about the future, maybe they're rolling their eyes and that sort of thing. And then you the future guy, are thinking, this is where we're headed, we need to go there. How did that happen, that friction?
That's why I said I'm more opened now.
Okay.
At first, I was, no, this is what we're going to do, let's stick to it. So even when he's saying about the future and these are the things we need to bring in new products, and I'm saying, see, we've not even satisfied our demand. We need to, our demands are increasing. We need to stick to it, attend to customers. Like I said, when we had that experience in 2016, I'm sure we'll talk about that. It kind of opened that, was a turnaround for me. Opened the sea. You need to change. You can't, you are in an industry where innovation is very key, adaptability and all is very key. So anytime is right now. In fact, if it's 4 years ahead of me, I'm like 3 years. Unlike before, 4 years and I'm 3 years behind and all. But right now, it's the gap is closing very, very fast.
But to balance that, right? You could easily have made mistakes when you are overly driven.
Sure.
So there was a time where I was like, let's go and start new product, let's do this, let's do that. And she was like, chill. And then in chilling, we're able to strengthen the base. So, sometimes businesses make that mistake also of not strengthening. So, for example, if you look at the Amazon story, they started with books. And then before they, diversified into other areas, they were known as a strong brand in that sector. So again, there was a little bit of balance there. So maybe, if not because she was like, let's calm down a bit, we would have put our hands in too many things and not be able to hold it together. So there's a place for innovation, and there's also a place for focus. Yeah. One of the things that's worked for us is, if there is no level of agreement, so we'll always discuss. We might have divergent views, but we'll discuss, we'll find. Then when we have some level of neutral peace, even if the peace is, I don't see it, but I see it a bit, I'm willing to trust you to go ahead with whatever it is that you say. Even if that is it, then it is enough to, to go ahead with. There are times when, because you're not sure if moving would work. You are also not 100% sure if staying put is the best move, So we always have to be in sync before we take any position, and that's how we managed it so far.
Initially, were there days where, I don't know, you guys would argue and then you wouldn't talk to yourselves, you take it home and then have disagreements and that sort of thing?
So, before we started, right, Debbie and I have been friends for 8 years. So we met on our first day in school.
Okay.
First day in university, we met. Obviously, we didn't start dating immediately. We're classmates, So we've known ourselves all the while.
How did you meet? Sorry.
All right, then.
But we will come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in school, went to LASU. We were meant to come for registration. I remember August 12, 2002. And I was on the queue. And for registration, medical registration. And so I just saw a friend of mine, we did GCE together when I was in SS2. And so I just greeted him, "Oh, buddy, how are you?" And Gbola was also his friend, so Gbola came with him. And so he introduced Gbola to me and said, "Oh, Debbie, meet Gbola." And Gbola is a very sharp guy, very, very jovial and sharp. And immediately Gbola just took over the conversation. How are you? And started talking and we started discussing. And at a point, I think Bode left, and so I was now chatting with Gbola and all of that. So they had done their registration. So I think I was waiting for a friend and all of that. And Gbola still waited for me, till we finished. And that day we went home together. That was how, we became friends.
Why did you wait?
Obviously, so it wasn't, I think it wasn't pre-planned. Honestly speaking, it wasn't pre-planned. I think it was just the way I was, So to add to what she said, what really happened was, so when you are doing registration, you register for library, registered for each department and all of that. So we were registering for library. That was where we met. And then we left, and we went to register. We went to the next phase of registration. So, but we kept space for them, which is, we kind of, so when they came, they didn't join the queue from the back. They just came and then joined us where we were. So we kind of were on the same level at that time in the registration process. So that was actually the waiting, and then from there, so because we are now at the same level, we just went through the remaining of the process together. And afterwards, we started gisting. And then when it was time to go home, public transport, we took public transport together. And then we went, So it wasn't really like waited for her to finish. We waited for her in line. That was what really happened.
And then how that you guys became friends, and then you were about to answer the question on the rifts and the
so obviously, so in 8 years, so between 2002 and 2010, where she started, we had known our strengths and weaknesses, to that start. So, but beyond that, when we started cutting and when we got married, we got married in 2011, there were some things we agreed that we were not going to fight overnight, no matter what. Till today, I'm not sure, maybe the number of times that a disagreement or has lasted till the next day. Just forgive, and move on, address the issues, forgive and move on. Maybe less than 5 incidences in 9 years, So to that extent, do we have differences? I can tell you, the first day we went on marketing, as in active marketing for Fastizers, we fought. The first day we moved from her sister's kitchen to the shop, moved out. These are kind of like a landmark events. We fought because I'm a very fast-paced person. Let's go now. She's more conservative. So I'm like, let's go. She said, "Hey, I'm coming." I said, "I can't wait for you again." So things like that always happen, but we've always had a way of managing it. So when we're meant to go for marketing, I didn't say I'm angry, so I won't go for the marketing again. I would rather say, you know what, just do what you are doing. I'll go for the marketing without you. You know, that is number one. Number two is Debbie is also very patient. You know, so hardly in the office will you see us argue. You know, if she has a divergence, you can see she's very calm. So if she has a divergence, she's just the same calmness, you know, and there's, you know, not to be overly scriptural, there's something in the Bible that says a gentle word turns away strife. So no matter your gra, the time she just comes calmly, you too, you must comport yourself and just be calm, you know. So that has worked a lot for us, you know, and then whatever happens outside the space of the office, we take it back home, we address it, and then we move ahead, you know. Yes, you will have some things that you won't like. You can't give her a memo. There's nothing you can do. So there's nothing you can do to her if she drops the ball. And there's nothing she can do to me if I drop the ball. So sometimes that's an issue. How do I communicate to this person? So you just have to talk about it and trust that they are trying their best all the time.
And we also, you know, before he joined, you know, we also said that we were not going to argue, you know, or fight in the presence of our staff. No matter what, we had that agreement. No matter what happens, we were not going to show any, you know, form of argument or, you know, fight or quarrel rather, you know, in the presence of our staff. And over the years, that has helped.
You've maintained that.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
And
really,
then-
really made that happen.
And then empathy and communication has worked a lot. Empathy in the sense that we look at, you know, we take peace over being right. You know, so it's not about who is right, it's what do we need to do for peace to reign. So it allows you to see things from the other person's perspective. If you do that, what you discover is that the tendency for conflict, you know, would be less. So it's not just making her understand me, but also actively trying to understand, you know, what's she trying to say. At least she's not, you know, she's a normal human being. She must have a point of view. So if I understand her point of view, I'm able to say, okay, you know what, I understand you, but this is where I think, you know, so we always have that communication.
This was learned over time.
Over time, definitely. Over time. Over a long time.
Curiously, Debbie and Gbola had studied electronics and computer engineering at the university. How then did they find themselves in the food manufacturing business? And how were the early years of Fastizers? Find out after this short break. I'm Osheye, and you're listening to Origins Africa podcast. Hello, dear listener. As we prepare to wrap up this season, our very first, I have a favor to ask. Would like your feedback to help us in our plans for the next season. What did you like? What didn't you like? What would you like us to start doing, stop doing, or even continue doing? To get your response, we've created a simple form. Please check the show notes of this episode for the link and our social media pages at Origins AF on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can simply type bit.ly/Origins Africa podcast feedback right now to access the form. BIT, B for bread, I for interview, and T for table. bit.ly/Origins Africa podcast feedback. I look forward to receiving your response. Let's make a difference together, one origin story at a time. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome back to Origins Africa podcast. So how did Gbola and Debbie, graduates of electronics and computer engineering, transition into the FMCG industry?
I would say that as a young, you know, lady, I wanted to, you know, be an employee. I didn't dream of ever owning my own business, you know, being an employer. So I wanted to fly, you know, in my career, maybe being a management, you know, staff of an organization, you know. So I remember in 100 level, I have a passion, you know, to bake and cook. You know, I love to delight people with good food, you know. So when we had a strike in 100 level, I said, instead of sitting at home, let me go and learn how to bake. Now, I learned how to bake, not because I wanted to go into business, but so that when I have a guest come to my house, instead of the conventional meals that you give, you can do varieties, and the time, that guest is leaving, I want my food to be, even if you forget about me, you won't forget about that food. So that was, be the passion that made me go learn how to bake cookies and cake. Now, in 200 level, Gbola's birthday, I had to bake the cookies, and the cake for him. And so...
Were you guys dating then? Sorry.
200 level.
Just very close.
We were very close, but not. Yes, we were very close, but not. So I baked the cookies and the cake. And, everybody loved the cookies, the cake. And at that time, he told me, he said, Debbie, you can sell these cookies. I looked at him with my engineering, with these sleepless nights, studying hard. And in fact, I must confess, I rejected it. And a lot of times they say that, then we had this, when angels pass, when you say a negative word, and angels will pass, they'll just stamp it, So I always say that I thank God that day, no angel passed, because I rejected. In fact, I said, no. And so we went on, so when I finished, service, I came back home, and I was really, really, hoping that I would work in an oil company or a bank, because I'd done my internship in the bank. So I was saying, well, I'm sure I will get an opportunity, to work in either of these organizations. So I remember when I served, I made a commitment to God, because I had, learned or heard that, the number of jobs, compared to the, number of applicants, were very, minimal, small. And so I was saying, God, I don't want to struggle, to work. Once I finish my service, I want to get a job. And I remember I made a commitment. I said I was going to sow my seeds, my NYC salary. I said all of it. I'd learned, sowing at a very young age. So I said, God, let's strike this agreement. I'll do that. And once I'm done, I want you to do your own part. So I finished school, went back home. Where I learned how to bake is not so far from my house at that time. So when I got home, I was applying, for, jobs. And so a week later, I remember the MD of that bakery, she came to the house, to me, Debbie, since you're at home, why not come join me? She was introducing, a cake mass production at that time. Why not join me to manage, this aspect? I was excited because it's what, I love to do. So I said, okay, it's fine. So I got in there, I think a week after, I started, work there, and I virtually did everything. So I was a production person, I was the HR, I was the procurement, I was the marketer, those things I didn't even like to do, marketing at that time, I was doing everything. And I did it with the whole, of my, I didn't even know, God was just planting me there, to understand what business, was and all of that. But I remember I did it, with the whole of my heart at that time. So there was a particular day we had an, urgent order, to produce cookies. So we do cookies and cakes, but for events, so not, mass production. And we had an urgent order to supply cookies, the next day. So we had to do nights. Of course, I was, when you enjoy something, it's not, it doesn't really stress you. So it was fine. And so while we were packing that cookies, I remember I got an inspiration, to also, sell the cookies into the retail space. That was where the first idea came. And I just ignored the thoughts. And, I was still hoping, for my bank job and all of that. So I ignored the thoughts. 2 weeks later, I remember my sister came home and said to me, oh, Debbie, somebody brought cookies to my office, and people didn't really like it. So I introduced you, that my sister does very good cookies. So I said, wow. And that thought just came. So it just connected, kind of. And I said, okay, let me give it an opportunity. So I remember I went to the market with 1,000 naira, and I bought all my ingredients, and I came back with 40 naira. So I always say Fastizers started with 960 naira. Of course, what I would have done, I always tell people is that I would have just gone to my boss's, company, taking her flour and everything to produce. But foundation is very key. So I would have used someone else's, capital or money to start, my business. But no, I learned that at a very early age, So I went to the market with my money and, bought those ingredients. But what I did was, of course, I didn't have oven and everything, so I had to, produce it in, where the bakery. And so I gave my sister 20 packs the next day. It was plain nylon, there was no sticker. So it was just plain, but sealed. And I told her, okay, give the woman that wants to sell, give her 1 pack. And, and let her sell 19 packs. At about 12,
How
that
much
day,
did you?
I gave her 80 naira. It was 100 naira, so she would resell at 100 naira. So at about 12, that day, she called back and said, it has finished. I said, Obalende this time, I won't be able to come. But the next day, that I will give her, because I still had some left. So I remember I had 50 packs left, so I gave it to her. And that same day, she finished it. So I started giving her 50. This was plain nylon. There was no sticker. So I started giving her 50 packs. I think about a week later, 100. And she was selling everything every day. 100 packs. And I looked at it. So at that time, I had not told Gbola about it. So I think I had done it like 2 weeks. Because one, I was still looking forward to my job. And I know that Gbola is an entrepreneur from birth. And I know that if I should tell Gbola this thing as in from the onset, he would just, try to, just because he's a fast-paced person. I said, no, let's go. Yes, this is good. So I was trying to kind of keep it. Let me just see how this thing, But I think after 2 weeks, I couldn't hold it anymore. I had to, Gbola, see, I started this thing, and this is, how it's going. We are selling 100 packs, So we started discussing immediately. Wow, if we put sticker on this thing, and we'll get more reach, we need, the design. And immediately picked up his phone, started calling the person that would design the sticker. Okay, what name are we going to give? It was Gbola, cool down now, cool down, cool down. But so we got the name, and the name came out of who I am, Fun Cookies. So, like I said, I love to delight people with food. So when you eat anything, from me, it needs to be fun, exciting, you'll be happy. That was where the name came from, the fun cookies. So we got the designer to design, we got the stickers. So, of course, because we had put stickers in it, I started going to those supermarkets. The supermarkets I went to sell the cakes, for the bakery at that time. So of course, because they had known me, so acceptance was very, I didn't struggle to get it. So you have brought cookies today and everything, and they accepted it. So
how many were you supplying them?
So I think I was supplying 12, a dozen at that time. And the feedback was also very positive, so they bring more and all of that. So I think about maybe 1 month into the business, Gbola said, now we have to kind of get more reach, more customers, more people to experience the product. And that was where he said when he came, we had to fight because I was busy producing, packing, and he waited, and we were meant to go together. So he waited, and because, of course, I was kind of delaying, so he said, okay, I will go on my own. So he took 18 packs and went to Celeb bus stop. Those cart pushers that sell gala, ice cream, he went to them. He went to one of them. Of course, it was later he told me that he went to some other places and they had rejected him. But of course, so when he was now going home, he just saw these guys on the, at the bus stop and said, okay, let me try this, people. And he went, he sold to the first person. He said, see, don't give me money. Just take these 6 packs. If you don't sell it on Monday, it was on a Saturday, I will come and buy it from you. So, of course, he didn't have anything to lose, so he collected it, took his number, went to the next person, the same script, went to the third person, but while he was marketing, somebody came and bought one from him. So that kind of encouraged the retailer. So it was only that retailer that paid him, the money. So he collected their numbers. So he got back home, called me, gave me the 3 numbers. So when I got home, on Monday morning, I was excited, I called the 3 of them. And I called the first person, madam, it's not finished. That day when you bring them, he finish, because we not get your number. We not call. I was happy. Okay, bring more. I was excited. I called the next person, the same story. He finished, the 6 packs finished that same Saturday. The third person finished that same Saturday. I was excited. So I took 12 packs and went. That was how we were supplying those retailers, 12.
Every day.
In fact, at the time, we increased it to 3 dozens. And now, because it was a fast-moving product, they had to introduce it to their other, friends around that were selling. And so at that time, we had about 12 people we were selling every day to three dozens we were giving them. So at a while, I couldn't cope with my...
How long had this continued for?
3 months.
Okay.
We had done 3 months. I couldn't cope because, at the bakery then, you can't do any personal work until you are done. So there were some times I have to close by 1, but though it wasn't far from my house. 1 a.m. the next day, I remember I would run from I would tell my sister to wait for me, at the gate, and I would run.
1 a.m.
Yes, everywhere was dark. So I would run, to meet her. At that, the stress was I couldn't combine the two. So I had to, resign after 3 months. But I had learned a lot. And I think that was what, God just wanted me, to learn. And I'm so glad that, like I said, whatever you find, the Bible says, whatever you find your hands to do, say, do it with it, because you never can tell. I didn't know. I was still hoping, waiting for my job and everything. But, I had learned a lot. So at that time, we had to buy. And 3 months without pay, I must say. 3 months without pay. And that's why I say...
The proceeds from the cookies you were selling, you were reinvesting into the business with the profit as well.
Yes, I was. Of course, at that time, I didn't even know. We had not, separated, but we had not done any accounting. We were just selling at that first time, of course, because we were just trying to see, how this will play out. So
and being the natural operations person, you could manage the funds and then put it back into the business.
Yes, exactly, at that time. So 3 months I left. So, Gbola had to take his salary then to buy the small oven that we had, the mixers, we had to buy small mixers, in my sister's kitchen.
After 3 months, you resigned.
Yes.
And then you decided to scale the business.
Yes.
Then the need came for getting the ovens and the mixers. And how much did you need at that point?
Well, it was, I don't think we spent maybe like 50K or...
So the first mixer, so the first thing she bought was the mixer. That was 25,000.
Okay, yeah.
Then it was second-hand mixer.
Yeah.
So it was 25,000. I gave her 25,000 from my salary because just immediately after she left, where she was working, she didn't have a mixer, but she was using her sister's oven.
Yeah.
But then that oven wasn't very good, and then we had to buy another oven. So we bought another second-hand oven for 25,000. So that was the first set of equipment that we got.
Okay, so I started producing. I got a staff at that time, and I got a delivery, person at that time. So we started.
Where were they delivering to?
That same seller to the retailers. We had about 12 at that time.
And these were these guys who were pushing the trolleys,
Yes.
so the delivery guy was supplying.
Yes, and we're also supplying the few supermarkets around at that time.
So on an average, how many packs were you delivering daily?
Okay, like
100, 150.
about 12, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about that.
But interestingly though, we'll come back to this. But when she came to meet you and then told you 2 weeks after she had started baking for her sister, what were you thinking? What came to your mind at that point she came to meet you?
Honestly, right? One of my mentors from afar was my pastor. And I'd seen how that's Pastor Taiwo Dukoya. And then if you can remember Pastor Bimbo, blessed memory, of how he supported her in being the best she could be. So it was in me. No matter what she said, it wasn't because it was the cookies at that time. No matter what, even she said she wanted to sell Biro, I would have encouraged her. That was one. Also because I knew that Debbie was more conservative. She would have preferred a 9 to 5. For her to come out and say, I've done this, it was like, wow, jackpot. And she needed I didn't want her to sense any negative vibe, because if I had not shown passion, I'm sure she's hearing this for the first time. If I had not shown passion, if I had shown any level of negativity, it might not, but it might have discouraged her, and all of that. So that was the first thing, But secondly is business and business models come naturally to me. No matter how basic the business is, I'm always thinking, okay, what's the business model? Is it scalable and all of that? So, and, just to digress a bit, that came from, so how did I get into engineering? I got into engineering because I like solving problems. I just like the concept of problem solving, And, as a child, when you say, what do you want to do? You don't see doctors as problem solvers. You don't see lawyers as problem solvers. You see accountants as bookkeepers. The people that you think solve problems are the engineers. So that was where my desire for engineering came from.
It was deliberate. You chose it.
Yeah, I chose. I filled my jam from myself. Nobody was there. I chose engineering. I wanted to be an engineer, and that was the reason why I wanted to be an engineer. And then after a while, I discovered that problem solving was not limited to engineering alone. So bringing that back to her story, the moment she told me, man, that I'm doing this, I began to see the opportunities in there, and then so that was where all the vibes of, okay, how do we put structure to this? How do we grow this? What are the do's and don'ts to ensure that this continues to grow? And then I wanted to encourage her to be the best that she could be, So that was where all of that came from.
Okay. So after he had blown it, after you told him, you went back home. Were you all popped up to go execute based on the ideas that he had shared, or were you maybe thinking, how's this going to work? Can I do it? Am I good enough?
Okay. So when we left, of course, at that point in time, I think the drive for working, being an employee, working for someone began to reduce because I was beginning to see, greater opportunities, that this thing is selling, people are buying. Of course, so when we discussed, we wanted to get more people, so it was kind of a shift. So the drive was reducing to want to work for someone. So it started shifting. And after a while, of course, it shifted completely because I was saying, the opportunities were great.
Did you have fears, even though you were seeing the opportunities? Did you have fears?
Okay, so I think fears, I don't think so. Even if I had fears, but because Gbola was, kind of supporting, that kind of reduced, the fear. Because at that time, even if I needed anything, I could, like I said, Gbola is a problem solver. So once you get to him, no matter if he has to call anybody, if he has to connect to anybody to ensure that, okay, this issue is solved, he will do that. So that really, really helped. So maybe if I was like on my own, that would have really, the fears would have really...
So you knew if anything went wrong, you could always run to Gbola, and Gbola would fix it for you.
Yes, because he has been supportive, even right from school days, and so I knew that, of course. And it was the kind of person he is. It wasn't as if it was from me, so that was him. So I think that gave me a bit of confidence to say, okay, let me keep going. He's supporting me, let me keep going. Okay, and apart from that, even behind, even if I say that I was at the forefront, he was the strategy, everything, he was behind it. So calls, how many people have we supplied today? So you will know that he's involved. He was really involved.
So you never felt alone?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. At that time.
Let me add to that. One of the things that worked, honestly, was, the execution part of Debbie. So I'm sure whenever we say, let's do this, we'll probably meet on a weekend to say, okay, how is everything going? Let's do, and we're not married, remember, let's do this. By the time we are meeting the next weekend, everything that we agreed she was going to do, she would have done. So that was encouraging. That was very encouraging for me because she always went ahead to execute those things. So that was very, very encouraging.
Okay. Then you gave the loan for the 25,000 naira loan, got the oven and the mixer, started supplying 100 packs daily.
More than
100 to 150, the 25,000 naira loan, got the oven and the mixer, started supplying 100 packs daily.
More than
100 to 150. So what happened afterwards?
Okay, so of course, we sat down to discuss again, and he said, so by then, our demand started increasing, and my sister's kitchen now kind of became small, of course, because he had to cook, you had to wait for them to finish cooking and all of that. So he came, he said, Debbie, we have to move from your sister's kitchen. So at that time, I was wondering, we get money and all of that. But like I said, Gbola is always, ahead of time. So he had gone to get agents, and we had to move, to it. So we finally got a 2-room shop in Oshodi. So on the day we were even meant to move, like I said, we fought. Because I wasn't even, he had done everything, we had paid,
How did you get the money?
All right. So she moved, like she said, she moved from the, squatting in a place to our sister's kitchen. And we agreed that the kitchen was small and we needed to raise 250,000 naira at that time. So I can't remember what I was earning, but 250,000 naira was a lot of money for me. So I remember, I think we went to my brother, and then I didn't just go to him and say, Debbie has a business. We did a business plan of what we had done 6 months prior to that time, how much. And okay, can you borrow 250,000 naira? We're going to repay you 50,000 naira every month for the next 5 months and all of that. So he loaned us.
Why did you feel the need to do that, as against just going to meet him and telling him?
So first things first, something happened to me when I was in 300 level. And, it could have been a negative, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I was in 300 level in Lasso, and we had a 6-month strike when we were in 100 level. Then we had another 6-month strike in 300 level. At that particular time, all my siblings, I'm the last of 5 siblings. At that time, all my siblings somehow were abroad. And I'm like, everybody's abroad. Me too, I want to go abroad. Everybody, if you contribute, let me come abroad. I will work and I will school. People are doing it, and it didn't happen. Nobody really, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand. The first reaction was, these guys are just being wicked. And then the second reaction was, so my brother, our firstborn called me and told me, see, don't think that the fact that we are here is easy. We have our own problems. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. And then I came to the root shock that really no one owes you anything. And everything you are going to get, you have to earn. So when I was approaching my brother, I knew that he didn't owe me anything. I knew that just going to tell him, brother, I need 200K does not mean he was going to give me 200K, but I need to show some level of value add, So I couldn't go to the bank because the bank wasn't going to take us seriously at that time. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to approach him, let me present my case in such a way that at least I appear to be serious, So that was what informed, doing that. That's number one. Number two was structure. I've always had structure in my mind. So I'm not sure for how long Debbie ran the business from her pocket, because the moment we found out, one of the things, from day one, every transaction must go through the bank. So even though she didn't have a bank account, we agreed we are going to be paying a salary. Maybe it was 20,000 naira a month, from day one. So I'd already had that mindset. Maybe I learned it from the training school of the bank that I had worked, but I've had that mindset of putting structures from the very beginning. So that helped also in presenting that half page. Obviously, I'm not sure it was the grandiousness of my plan that made my brother give me. Yeah, or maybe just, I don't know, but he then loaned us the money, and then I took another loan because we had to make a lot of expenditure. I think everything was about 500,000. I took a loan from a microfinance bank, 250,000. We had to rent the shop, we had to put furniture. We had to then buy more ovens and then buy more mixers, so everything, then buy raw materials. So I don't think we were getting credit at that time. So everything came to about 500,000. So I took 250,000 from my brother, then 250,000 from the bank, and then we kind of spread it. I'm not sure, was it at the same time? I think it was about the same time. It was about the same time that we took that money, 500,000, and that's how we're able to, from the turnover, of the business, we knew we would be able to pay back, you know.
Yeah.
We knew we'd be able to pay back. And then, you spoke about fear. I think one of the things that worked for us was that we started really small and we're growing at our pace. So there was no time that we needed so much money that we couldn't get, So even when we get borrowing the 500,000, we knew that, okay, from the turnover, by the time we pay all our raw materials, we will be able to repay that. Is that the question?
Yes. And another thing, Gbola said at that time was when he looked at the books, because at that time, when I told him he had created an Excel, for my accounting at that time. So everything we sell daily, we were posting, everything we spend, we were posting. So he said, now he calculated, by the months, and he said, even if we don't increase our sale, that was how we were able to come up to that amount. Even if we don't increase our sale, if we are selling the same thing, except it goes worse, it would be a problem. But if we were selling the same thing, we would be able to pay, this amount. So that also helps.
Then you're supposed to move, and then you had the fight.
Yes, we had the fight. Of course, but I finally moved on a Saturday. So I finally moved to that place. We got more staff, and we started, producing. Now, at that time, our capacity had increased because we have incurred, bought more equipment. So we had to go to Oshodi. The same strategy we used at Celebo Stop with the cart pushers. We had to do the same at Oshodi. So we went to them, those cart pushers. See, take this, but don't pay me. After maybe the next day, I will come. If you don't sell it, I will come and buy. Interesting is, I remember that day before I got to my office, because I trekked back, I got a call from one of them to say that I finished selling. I was very excited. So I think we got 2 people the first day. I had to go back because it was not much of a distance anyway, but I had to go back to supply. So we, from 2 people, we got 3. I think there were not that many. I think we got about 5 people, retailers that were supplying. So we had, gotten Oshodi. Now we had to move to, I think Mushin was the next place. We moved to the same script. If you don't sell,
Was there deliberateness to the move, or it was just random, like moving from Salad to Oshodi to Mushin?
I think it was just closeness, the places that were close to us at that time. So Mushin was the next close place to Oshodi. Then the next place was Ikeja. So we went to Ikeja, the same strategy. But the interesting thing is, if I should call it interesting, these people don't pay you. So you supply them on credit in the morning, and in the evening you go back to collect your money. Some of them might not even give you them. Even if you don't see your product, they will tell you to wait. Oh wait, let's sell. So of course they have used your money to pay somebody else. So it was very, very challenging at that time. But we moved to Ikeja. We got few retailers too. I think we moved to Yanopaja. So at that time we had almost 50 retailers we were supplying every day at those different points. But we had to go back, to collect the money. So it was and some of them would even run away with your money at
So
that
you
time,
made
because it was just a temporary space. It wasn't as if they had a shop, So from there, they know that maybe they are owing a lot of people and they can't pay. Maybe they've used it to sort their personal issues. They will just run away. So the risk was becoming very high. We were losing money, and so we came back again and said, okay, how are we going to, solve this issue?
So, as Fastizers business grew rapidly, so also did the risk, and they were losing money. How did Debbie and Gbola address this challenge? How did they also navigate other hurdles that came up along the way, including the economic recession of 2016? Find out next week on Origins Africa podcast. Thank you for listening to our show this week. If you liked it, do leave us a review, a comment, and share with your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend and to tell another friend. We would also love to read from you. So please do send us a tweet or leave a comment on Instagram at OriginsAF. You can also write to us at originsafricapodcast@gmail.com. Remember, do subscribe at wherever you get your podcast: Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, amongst others. Our sound producer this week was Tumishi Ajani, and the theme song was composed by Just Ritimi. I'm Oshaya, and you've been listening to Origins Africa podcast. Bye for now.
My father Mother told me life is not a bed of roses. You gotta put your way into the plow, do the work to smell the roses. Don't back down. Whatever you do, don't back down. When things get tight, keep the drive, keep the faith, stay in the fight. Draw strength from the motherland. Let our heroes hold your hand. You are the answer, friend. Origins of Hear the tales of those before you. Let their stories motivate you. What you